James Betancourt, graduate of Woodbury University School of Architecture, class of 2019. So, got started in architecture, well, not knowing what architecture was. Didn't have any no one in my family was from an architecture background, engineering. The farthest in more of a construction field. So my dad, he's a plumbing contractor, always going out on the job site, has his truck, tools in the back, and I'd come along with during the summers. So always interested in construction, and having the artistic background of my grandparents. They're from Mexico, Zacatecas, Mexico, which is a colonial city in Mexico, originally Spanish, and there's a lot of Spanish influenced architecture there. So as a kid, going to Mexico each summer, hanging along, just looking up, seeing cathedrals, and the ornamentation on the exterior always caught my eye. And I'd sit there and have my grandfather explain to me what I was looking at. So out of high school, I had taken a few engineering design classes. Actually, we had a bridge competition through Caltech that I entered. I got first place. Coming out of high school, took a few engineering design courses, which really touched on a little bit of civil, a little bit of mechanical, and then a little bit of architecture. And architecture I was always closer to because of, I was artistic. I like colors, I like hierarchy, shape, geometry, shading, shadow. That caught my eye more than the technical items. So, started out at Pasadena City College doing the architecture program under Coleman Griffith, who's the dean of architecture there. And then 2 years there, transferred out to Woodbury. And in my mind, I've always been conscious about financial and how I was going to pay for school, because my parents, they make decent living, but not enough to push or support me through school entirely. So 100% by me. Had to work for it. So I understood that I needed to go to a 2-year first, kind of get a grip on where I want to go, what I want to do. And so cut some financial costs through community college, and then was able to get a transfer scholarship to Woodbury. Bill Dorman introduced us. I was doing a planning internship at the city of Temple City. So, I was doing a lot of planning, intake of plan check, explaining to people setbacks and height limitations, and then working with architects over the counter on their designs, and how actually it was kind of a helpful tool for them to have me there because I had an architectural background and education. So they were always coming to me for hierarchy issues and if it'll work visually, and what these designers can do to help their design. That way it's not so engineer basic. Bill Dorman was the building engineer at that time. It still is actually. Proprietary Transtech company who's contracted through the city of Temple City. And Bill and I would always have conversations about architecture because, Bill is an engineer by education. Always wanted to be an architect, but always clung more to the engineering side. So him and I would have 5-10 minute conversations on the hour about architecture, and he'd introduce me to a lot of the work that Richard had done even before I knew who Richard was. And he was explaining to me the importance of theater, and of course having my musical background, marching band, jazz band, high school, all through elementary school. And then my grandfather, he was a professional tenor saxophone player, so having that background also kind of a match made in heaven when I met Richard, because of course he had his professional music career before architecture. And so a lot of the items that have to do with theater design I kind of understood, not to the level of detail that it takes to create it architecturally, set of construction documents, but having the notion or having the essence of what music does, how acoustics work, just the general idea really helped me and kind of turned my head in that direction of theater. So Bill said, well, let me introduce you to my friend Richard McCann, and we'll see if there's a job for you there. So it was something like November 3rd, 2018. Come by the office, 9 o'clock at night, on my motorcycle.
Yeah, the Golden Bough is a 400-seat repertory theater, and it's run by a small but very significant performing arts organization called Pacific Repertory Theater in Carmel. It's approximately a 20-year-old organization at this point in time, and they've built they took on a former movie theater and have repurposed the theater into live performing arts, and doing it in phases because of the funding necessary.
Yeah, the Golden Bough is especially different for me just because we're dealing with the planning commission. These are people who are not trained architects, who really don't understand technical drawings. So for us, getting them to understand what we're doing, why we're doing it, the three-dimensional model really comes in handy. Helps visualize and put into perspective just what we're proposing. I mean, this is my architectural internship, so starting from, school, like Mark Ganji says, school teaches you what architecture is, and then when you start your internship, you really learn how to do architecture. So I think that is the biggest, hurdle that I've had to overcome, and I think still am overcoming. And every day, just showing up is half the battle, just open your ears, open your eyes, and pay attention.